Welcome back, Locked On Cavs listeners. On today's show, we're going to talk about Cavs Wiz, and we're going to talk about Rajon Rondo as a pretty likely Ricky Rubio replacement, as all things kind of evolve here. That's coming up today on Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Evan, obviously, I think the big news here is that Rajon Rondo is going to come to the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll get to that, and we'll get to Cavs Wiz here in a second. Wanted to tell everyone that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and get playing the very best DFS fantasy out there on the market. And we also want to thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every single day. Remember, we are free and available on all platforms. Okay, Evan, Cavs Wiz. Let's just talk about the game first, because that is a thing that has happened. That is a thing that is, let's just say, more concrete at this moment in time. Cleveland loses 110-93. Competitive first quarter. Not really competitive in the second and third, particularly the third, and kind of just a blood game in the fourth quarter. Cleveland started a lineup of Kevin Pangos, Isaac Okoro, Evan Mobley, Kevin Love, and Lauri Markkanen due to the situation with Ricky Rubio and Darius Garland being in the health and safety protocols. Evan, does anything from this game at all stick out to you?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, the obvious one being that it feels so weird being on the left side of the screen instead of the right side of the screen now. Sorry, folks. It's a new year, almost new Locked On Cavs kind of, but the obvious takeaway is the lack of Darius Garland clearly has hurt the Cavs in their last two games against New Orleans and now Washington, and probably will against Atlanta unless he's somehow miraculously available, which I doubt he will be tomorrow, as in the 31st, and it's also just tough because the loss of Ricky Rubio, I think that was a gut punch for this Cavs team. Ricky kind of was the common thread for a lot of these players in terms of just veterans and younger players. He made this team better. Kevin Pangos definitely looks like he's overwhelmed and not really an NBA caliber body. I think we have a pretty clear list of tape at this point to show that. I think Kevin Pangos is a great guy. I just don't think he's going to be here long term, or he's really like the immediate solution as the backup point guard, hence why they traded for Rajon Rondo. But yeah, man, it's just not a lot to glean from it. Evan Mobley was really fun in the first quarter. Kevin Love was really fun in the first quarter. Lamar Stevens was good to have him back too. Dylan Windler was largely non-existent. He had 2 points and 6 boards in this game. He was back as well. Malik Newman got some burn at the end. He played 8 minutes, scored 8 points, had 1 assist, 1 rebound. Maybe the JB Bickerstaff utilizes him a little bit more because, like I shared the other day, Brendan Yu, in my conversation with him, they charged if you use Malik Newman as like in a Jordan Clarkson like 6-man role. And if the Cavs need a bit of a scoring punch, maybe they turn to Newman a little bit in some situations, just because this is going to have to be a situation where JB Bickerstaff continues to get creative. Denzel Valentine did not play tonight. I think that's kind of the writing on the wall to say that he's the one who's going to be traded for Rajon Rondo, just to open up a roster space for them. The Lakers will waive Valentine, open up a roster space for Stanley Johnson as well. Sorry, the name just blanked on me. I hit 14. I was about to say Brandon Ingram. But either way.
They wish it was Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, me too. But all in all, it's COVID ball. We don't hand out awards during this just because it's either a win or a loss. There's no such thing as a bad win or a bad loss, or a good win or a good loss, or something like that. You just kind of have to get through this. The Cavs are starting to get healthy again. Thankfully, they had 3 players come back from health and safety. Jared Allen is around the corner from what I've gathered too. So hopefully he's back against Atlanta, if not Sunday against Indiana. So things could be getting better for the Cavs. I think Rondo will give them a bit of a shot of an R2, but we'll talk about him in the next segment, couple segments, but not really much to glean from this. Individually, like Evan Mobley, really fun. Isaac Okoro is shooting better from 3. I got some Lauri Markkanen takes I want to fire off too, but it's just interesting.
Yeah, I think this game is forgettable, frankly. That this was the biggest loss of the Cavs season. A 17-point loss will go down as so far as the largest loss of their season, which kind of is, crazy to think that like they've definitely in the past seasons have much more loss than this. Evan, the only thing that I like think kind of matters for me, like the Pangos thing matters to some degree because it's just like it's been very tough for him to kind of find footing. I think the Mobley offense stuff after the Pelicans game, where that was like the Rubio ACL injury obviously took center stage there, but Mobley's offense in that game to me was awesome. And then he took 20 shots in this game. That was the most shot attempts on the team. 21 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 2 turnovers, 1 steal. Evan Mobley on offense is like really interesting. That little up and under he had that made Kyle Kuzma high five him was ridiculous. He's very good. We can see that he uses that length to kind of duck around the rim and get those up and unders off, those reverse layups off in a way that's kind of crafty. I think the thing that is tricky is you can tell that the Cavs right now are a team that is expending a lot more energy on defense than they might have before because they're missing Jared Allen, who was on the sidelines tonight, had a mask on, and it was doubtful for this game, and usually should be back soon. They're spending a lot more energy on defense, and then Evan Mobley is taking on this kind of different role in offense. And I think there's just an adjustment period kind of going on here, right? Like I think that they don't cut around him when he's just like attacking. Like oftentimes he gets the ball and it's like, okay, Evan's gonna kind of ISO post up now, or Evan's going to, stand at the top of the key and get the dribble. Like they need to, I think, get more creative and more movement based stuff going on around him when you're going to feed Evan like this. And I think as we'll get to in the Rondo stuff, I don't think the Rondo thing is a full Rubio replacement. Like I don't think you can just plug in Rondo and then play the exact same way you've played with Ricky Rubio. I think it's going to be a lot of Evan Mobley getting to do. I think if it were up to me, it would be Mobley getting to do more stuff. I think that's something that just makes sense for the talent he is. And there's going to have to be some more movement, some more kind of, I think, creativity on the offensive side of the ball to kind of maximize what that could look like. And again, everyone have to get back to full health, get through this COVID situation. Getting Darius back will obviously mean more than anything else. But I think until that happens, Mobley getting touches is good. I want to see it be a bit more dynamic is the word I was kind of talking around there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also would like to see Larry Marketed use his size to his advantage a little bit. You pointed this out. He is 7 foot but plays like a wing. He is now 2 for 23 from 3-point range on his last 23 3-point attempts, which is suboptimal to say the least, because you put him out there as a spacing and a gravity threat, and it's kind of non-existent. You had it more with Kevin Love tonight, and I think that's going to get a little clunky too. But like you said, defensively, this Cavs team's having to overexert itself a lot more just because there is the lack of Jared Allen's presence on the floor. I think Isaac Okoro having the task of having to deal with Bradley Beal and trying his best and failing miserably is just tough too. Brad Wanamaker looked really sharp for the Wizards. I want to give him a shout out as well. I think that's why you and I are both kind of like hoping the Cavs could pick him up, and then he was signed in real time as we recorded. But it is what it is. You can't win every game. This Cavs team is going to go 82-0. They're also not going to go. Doing math in my head right now as the gears are like slowly turning.
You at one point in your life you were an engineer, so like
68-14. So they aren't going to go 68-14 either. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
At one point in my life, I do have a piece of paper to my name that has my BS as in bullshit and bachelor's of science as well in biotissue engineering and research and development. So, I'm glad I'm able to use it at some points these days, but basic math. It's not just asking Siri to do stuff, but it is what it is, man. Like I'm intrigued to see how this Rondo addition works out for the Cavs. I want to talk about this more too, but like you said, he can't replicate what Rubio provides, but I don't really think there's much else to say about Cavs Wizards.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is there was, just because we haven't talked about Isaac's really since he's come back from COVID, because there's been a lot of other stuff going on. His first 3 offensive possessions of this game were like absolutely like awful and like atrocious, and you're just like, what is going on here? And then he also later in this game then hit a pull-up 3 and a catch and shoot 3, and the shot looked really good, and you're just like, oh, okay, this is gonna be like, I still remain like a believer, and like it's just like one of those weird things. JB did say before the game that like they got asked like, does Isaac have to do more now? And he kind of just like, we just need to get Isaac back to like what he was, some version of what he was doing before he went into COVID protocols. And like, if that's I think actually correct, that feels, a little coach speaky, obviously, but I think like there's some nuggets of truth there.
It's tougher without Garland and Rubio on the floor too, because those
Yeah.
two make Okoro's life a lot easier. They get him a lot of easy looks while he's cutting on the baseline or just cutting in general.
Yeah, and I think like you saw him had some chemistry with Mobley in the Pelicans game. I thought Washington did a better job kind of defensively and that kind of stuff. And look, like I think these are lineups and players that have like no feel for each other. They have no chemistry, and like that shows a little bit. Like the Wizards obviously didn't have Spencer Dinwiddie, and it went up at the Cavs like didn't have Garland, didn't have Rubio, and like didn't have Allen, and like a lot of what has made this team really special is just not there, and you can tell that no one was really familiar with each other.
Washington had Brad Beal; they were fine.
Yeah, they had Beal and they had Kuzma, who played really well and gave Mobley some fits in some way. And also, again, high-fived him. Probably the funniest moment of the night is Kyle Kuzma high-fiving Evan Mobley after Evan Mobley did some dope stuff. All right, after the break, we're going to dive into Rajon Rondo, who may very well soon be a Cleveland Cavalier. Yeah, he is in COVID protocols himself right now, so he has to clear those, and then he can become a Cavalier. So thus is the world we live in. But, Evan, you're going to tell everyone about our friends at PrizePicks.
Yeah. Hey, Cavs fans not living in Ohio. You've been hearing me tell you about PrizePicks for months. Have you signed up yet? PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. If you have not checked it out yet, you're missing out. I'm telling you, you're going to love the app for the NBA and the mixed spots pick'ems. The Christmas Day games were off the charts and they were even more fun if you played PrizePicks. PrizePicks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. PrizePicks offers more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator and offers all the superstar players as well as bench players, only recording a handful of minutes each game. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of, from points, assists, rebounds, threes made, and so on. All the users that deposit and use the promo code will receive 100% instant deposit and a match up to $100. Just be sure to use the promo code NBA. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you win up to 10 times any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks allows mixed sports entries, and so you can take the over on Embiid combined with the under on Rodgers in the same entry. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. PrizePicks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. So, if you don't live in Ohio, go to PrizePicks today and use promo code NBA, or go to the App Store and download the app. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. If you're not playing PrizePicks, you honestly don't know what you're missing.
All right, Rajon Rondo, Evan, your initial reaction to this is what?
I'm pretty sure he's the first Cavs player to either wear 4 since Iman Shumpert or 9 since Channing Frye.
Well, you said we're number 4. Evan Mobley is wearing number 4, buddy.
Okay, so is Dylan Windler gonna get? Well,
Okay, so
scratch that.
Scratch that. Hold on. No, we're circling back. How did you just didn't remember that Evan Mobley wears number 4?
Evan Mobley's just so transcendental. I don't look at the number on his jersey.
Here's what I think. This is Peter. I was on Locked On today. Shout out to Peter Bukowski, 2 days in a row talking about all this Cavs stuff. His suggestion to me was that Rajon Rondo. It's also very funny that they're both RR, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, it's tripped me up a little bit, honestly. Rajon Rondo should wear a number like 63. Just wear like a guard's number and just make it weird.
Or he could bully Dylan Windler out of number 9, and Dylan Windler has to change his number to 3, like that he wore in college, but he didn't wear 3 when he came to the Cavs.
It's a cursed number, man. Well, that's also Rubio. Is Rubio just going to give up his that? Like, what are we doing here?
Dylan Windler, well, he can't wear 10 because, God, I hate this tangent I just unlocked. But
yeah,
short, the Rondo trade makes sense because it became pretty clear tonight that Kevin Pangos cannot shoulder 36 minutes or however he played.
Played a lot, and he probably is going to. I would assume he's starting tomorrow night in Atlanta. If 24, that game happens.
Yeah, he's going to probably start tomorrow night against Atlanta, like you said.
Yeah.
RJ Nembhard looked okay in his 21 minutes. He had 3 points, 2 assists on 1 of 5 shooting. 1 from 3. He is not a 3-point threat because that was his biggest hang-up at TCU. Those are, and then you have like Malik Newman, who is more of a score-first guard, but is not really going to initiate the offense. Then you have to lean more on Okoro, Mobley, etc., to kind of initiate playmaking. That's not sustainable even when Garland comes back. You need an answer coming off the bench for this Cavs team.
Mm-hmm.
And if this kind of feels like a Kobe Altman special, where Altman just takes one of these non-guaranteed contracts at the end of his rotation, a la Denzel Valentine, like he did back in the past when he acquired JaVale McGee, there's no really like quality point guards. I mean, yeah, Jeff T would make sense as a 10-day signing, but maybe they couldn't get him here in time. Maybe Rondo's about to clear protocol soon, like you alluded to, but I'm okay with it. He provides playmaking off the bench. Scoring wise, I guess defensively, I think that narrative's really gone at this point. Like Rondo isn't really a plus defender like he used to be. He was actively helpful with the 3 Alpha Bulls. He's the one who kind of embraced the younger
Yeah.
players on the Chicago roster while Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler tuned him out. So maybe this won't be a huge wrench in the good vibes Cavaliers, but I don't know, man. I have to kind of see how it plays out. It's weird to think that Rajon Rondo, arguably one of the best point guards when he was at his peak in the league, is now a Cleveland Cavalier. It's also weird to think Ricky Rubio was or is, and it's hard to think like all these players have worn a Cavs uniform in their lifetime. He's going to be an interesting footnote, a fun trivia question at the end of the day, but it makes sense. This seems like a Kobe Altman thing to do. You have an accumulation of second-round picks. You have a bunch of non-guaranteed contracts at the end of your rotation and your bench, and you just accumulate some of those assets you've acquired. You make an in-season upgrade. It's similar to what they did with JaVale McGee. And if Rondo continues to play good company guy and plays well for this Cavs team, this could be a good opportunity for him maybe to parlay another contract with a contending team.
Notably, I think this is just important as a factual note. Rondo, as a member of the Lakers playing in LA, one of the markets where there was a local vaccine mandate, he was vaccinated because he had to play home games. He had to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
So he theoretically could be out of COVID protocols sooner as a result.
He could be available Sunday against Indiana.
Yeah, in theory, but
in theory,
we know very little right now.
Because the trade hasn't even been finalized. I gather the earliest it could be done is tomorrow morning.
Yeah, if it's gonna get done, it's gonna get done sometime on Friday. That the wording on that, kind of from like let's just say like the highest perch of newsbreaker, was like very clear that it's like Friday, and it was like okay, is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm
really frazzled about that jersey thing too. I can't believe you did that to me.
I didn't do anything. You just didn't know.
Cut it. You should have cut it.
No. If you forget what Evan Mobley's number is, you have to just live with that shame. You just do. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm too busy watching the players and not fixating on their numbers, nerd.
You done? Are we done here?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done having my tantrum. Go ahead.
Thank you. We'll get to the negative stuff of this after the break, because I am a pretty big skeptic that this is like a clear win, but I can understand why you do this, right? Like Rondo clearly is like they clearly identified backup point guard and like veteran creator type as like a need on this roster in the offseason. That is why you went out and got Ricky Rubio. If I can understand how the coaching staff, I'm sure, has a say in this, and I'm sure Kobe Altman looked at this and his team looked at this and was like, okay, we need to just go get another backup creator and a veteran guy to kind of help this. Rondo's available because the Lakers are weird and like he's not playing much for them. He's been really bad this year. It's worth noting he was bad in Atlanta as well. Like, we'll see what this looks like, but like I can understand how you can say, okay, we need to replace what Rubio brought us. We need to thus bring in a veteran guy to replace what he brought and have him do something, right? Like I think that is why this makes sense, and like the cost is negligible. Like Denzel Valentine, like yes, like it's hurt. This is kind of a Cavs team that like sneakily it doesn't have very good depth. Like some of there's a massive drop off after like that top 7 or 8. You know, it's a tricky situation here to kind of manage what's going on, but I can understand how you can look at this and say, like, okay, like a bad second round pick that we don't care about to get Rondo in for the rest of the season because he's on a 1-year contract, expiring contract. You're not tied to him after this season. I can understand how you get there. All right, after the break, after the break, I just we'll hit on a little this obviously in more detail and kind of why I think this is. I'm a little skeptical, let's say. But first, got to tell everyone about our friends at Built Bar. Built Bar, look, best tasting protein bar ever. It's the new year, and that means it's time for some New Year's resolutions. For Evan, that probably means remembering what jersey numbers the Cavs wear. For you, that could be that could be getting protein bars. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar and maybe even better than a candy bar. They have so many great flavors. Evan, I think your favorite is would be the cookies and cream, correct?
Correct. I would eat 9 or 4 of them, and it doesn't matter.
Look, so you just have fun with this. This is great. Built Bars are covered in 100% chocolate. They have 130 calories, most of them, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Again, so many great flavors. Evan's favorite, cookies and cream. My favorite, which right now might be mint brownie, coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, and a whole bunch more. Try Mix Box if you want to. Make sure you try them all. Go to built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15. That is LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Okay. Here's Evan why I think I am perhaps skeptical of this, because Rajon Rondo is not going to be Ricky Rubio, right?
No, there's a huge offensive drop off.
Yes. So
in terms
Ricky
of scoring.
Well, I
That's
think
what I was kind of skating around in the first segment. Is just like offensively, you're not going to get the same punch you got from Rubio off the bench.
And even Rubio's like scoring the last couple weeks has really fallen off. Like that Knicks game was really like the peak of what he's been offensively as a scorer this season. I think the value he really has provided them is he plays with this energy that is like feeding into everyone around him, right? Like he is passing the ball, he is keeping things moving, he is playing at a pace, he is kind of this like kinetic creator who is like making everything just kind of flow better around him. Rajon Rondo is like famously like one of the most like slow paced players in the league and very like purposefully kind of methodical players in the league, to kind of put like a nicer tone on this. He's a guy who's going to play his way. He's not going to go too fast. He's going to kind of be very exacting, right? That is such a different polar opposite from the way Ricky Rubio approaches and plays basketball, that it is not going to be like, okay, we now have Rajon Rondo, and even if we believe he is 75% of what Ricky Rubio was, we could just have him do the exact same thing. You can't do that. Like, you just can't. I don't think you can play him and Garland together and have the same kind of success that you did, right? Like, he just isn't going to play big and be defensively. I'm skeptical he can be that good of a defensive player as Rubio. And I that's why I tend to think that like this is like getting Rubio or getting Rondo is part of the solution. I think the other part of this is going to have to be empowering Evan Mobley, empowering Isaac Okoro, leaning more on Darius Garland, perhaps leaning more on Jetty Osman to run some pick and roll and some stuff with some bench units. Like, I think there's just going to need to be some evolution alongside the Rondo part of it, because he's going to come in and probably help you keep the trains on time, keep everything moving, but he's going to do it in his way, and it is not going to be the Rubio way. So I think just like for me, if people out there are like, oh, they got Rondo, this is fine, the Cavs are just going to keep on humming, this is going to be different. This is not going to be the same kind of vibe and energy that you got from Rubio up until now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Sorry, I was watching Joel Embiid be really petty.
Oh, amazing stuff. Amazing
I
stuff.
really hope we get Nets Sixers in the playoffs. That'd be such a fun series, and I can't wait to go on Instagram after this. Meta's finest social media photo sharing product, but we don't own Spotify. But really bothered by this jersey number thing still. I don't know. Yeah, like it's a good point, man. Like
you brought up your other own slip up, by the way, just so you know. I didn't even bring that one up. You did. Continue.
I was just doing it before you did, or texting me about it like late at night. Like I was trying to fall asleep.
No. Good vibes.
My eyes will just like shatter open, like hear glass shatter, and I see a text from Chuck, man. I'm like, oh, my good friend Chuck. He's like, LOL, Facebook doesn't own Spotify. And then I just lay there like listening to Marvin's Room by Drake. But yeah, they are really polar opposite players in terms of play style too. And I think it's going to be tough. I wonder if JB can get Rondo to buy into the system, because Rondo is a coach or a player that is known to butt heads with coaches if he doesn't really want to adapt his play style to what the system calls for. I hope this doesn't blow up in the Cavs' face, because that is actually a really interesting point that I hadn't thought about. Like, Rondo is a very methodical player. Like, he and LeBron like made sense for each other on the Lakers, because when LeBron sat, I guess you in theory could have Rondo play 4 or 5 minutes as the initiator of the offense, because he'll still drain out the shot clock and make sure everybody's in their places and stuff. But This Cavs team likes to play fast. They have a lot of young players that like to run up and down the floor. They like to crash the glass and get going and smash some ass. But maybe Rondo introduce a different play style. Maybe that'd be beneficial for Kevin Love. Maybe I don't know, man. Maybe either JB lets Rondo do what he wants because he is a Hall of Fame point guard and has proven track records of his success, even though he's well past the toilets of his career, or JB gets Rondo to buy into his system because Rondo signed a minimum deal with the Lakers and the
But
Lakers
that
let him go.
but that was the Lakers who like playing for a title, playing like I just like
I know
there.
maybe this is a humbling enough experience that Rondo's like, okay, if I buy in
But what in
and
Rajon
maximize
Rondo's what in Rajon Rondo's NBA track record has led would lead you to
nothing,
believe? Yeah, that's what I'm
nothing.
saying. That's
That's
what
what
I'm
I'm
saying.
getting at too.
Yeah.
And yes, he does have experience playing with two big men in New Orleans when they tried the Boogie and AD experiment.
Cut short, frankly, by the Boogie Achilles injury. It's a real bummer.
That team was really fun before the
Yeah.
Boogie's Achilles
Do
injury.
you remember when Boogie got like traded on like All-Star Weekend and it was very weird?
Yeah, I remember when was it Harrison Barnes got traded at halftime and he had to sit for the rest of the game when he
Remember
got
when
traded.
Dion couldn't come out for the national anthem in Philly?
Remember when
And he
Sam
got
Decker found out he was traded during warm-ups for a Cavs game and then he got called to the locker room and found out he was traded.
what a time. Love that.
And then he
Like
tweeted about how the Cavs are like a dishonest organization, went on a rant, and deleted everything.
yeah, and then him and JR got in some sparring matches later. Fun times anyway, continue.
Fun times in Cleveland. I hope this doesn't blow up in the Cavs' face. I worry, but I'm also going to be cautiously optimistic that this is the right answer for this team because the Cavs are getting healthy as well. I think them getting bodies back will just obviously make them better. Like you're going to get Garland back hopefully soon. You're probably going to get Allen back either against Atlanta on New Year's Eve or Sunday against Indiana on the 2nd of January. Rondo, it's tough because I still think there needs to be another move Cleveland makes because Rubio was your 6-man and Rondo cannot play the 6-man role for this Cavs team. He can be your primary reserve guard, point guard, sure. He can be like the initiator of the offense for the bench unit, sure. But you need a guy who can provide scoring punches and replicate some of that production Rubio did because they already took a blow and they lost Colin Sexton.
Yes.
Losing Rubio as well is another big blow because those two provide like tertiary offense when the offense bogs down sometimes. Because like Rubio just says, fuck it, we'll just throw a 3-pointer up. And he sometimes doesn't make it, but sometimes he does make it. And like that shoots a team in the arm. So I wonder if there's
but then he's also always like moving around and like kind of like in like Rondo, I don't know. Yeah, but like Rubio also does it with like a patience that is really key. And like Rondo is almost like too hesitant to do some of that stuff.
Yep. He's
very static.
That was my point at the beginning of the segment is there's a huge lack of offensive production, like a huge drop off when you go from Ricky Rubio to Rajon Rondo in terms of just scoring the bucket or scoring the basket. And I wonder if there's another move out there for the Cavs, whether it's like Gary Harris in Orlando, or they try to go get Eric Gordon from Houston, or they somehow cobble a trade together and get Karis LeVert and they push one of the guys who are starting right now to the bench and they kind of get that spark that way. There are moves out there. I feel like this is the beginning of the Cavs kind of making some lateral moves to upgrade their roster a little bit, but I think you need to make another move in juncture with this Rondo trade in order to kind of keep things humming both of the starting lineup and the bench unit because this team's going to get healthy. They are going to play better, but there's an obvious lack. There's a void from obviously Colin Sexton, but that void got even bigger. Almost punched my glasses off my desk with Rubio going down last night or the other night as well.
Yeah. Just this is a cold reality. So like I'm not suggesting they should do this and just saying that the math now works for trade Ricky Rubio, who like I couldn't have imagined the team trading in a lot of ways up until this injury. It works straight up for Karis LeVert.
That would be such a bad look because
I agree.
Like,
I agree.
We want Ricky to be a part of this organization. We want him like at practice.
I agree. I'm just saying in the cold world of NBA trades and business like that now works. And I was just like, huh.
But who would you trade him for?
Rubio, LeVert works straight up.
It does. I think you could get a little more freaky with it too if you want, though. You could maybe Indiana if they really want to. Like they're not great, but they're like teetering on having an all-star caliber big man and in Sabonis and a very, very good big man in Miles Turner. Obviously, the Cavs want neither of those players, and obviously Brogdon is not available to be traded. Like LeVert would be a good start, but I think you need to get something else from Indiana too,
Well,
because
yeah, it just one of their like is it like Torrey Craig or something like that? Yeah, I mean they're or like the
Torrey
love
Craig's such a JB Bickerstaff player. Like I'd be like, you know what? There's Lamar Stevens, but a little smaller.
Lamar Stevens, but like probably a little better right now and a little more proven. Another point of attack defender more than like Okoro could play off ball. Like there's some fun like JB stuff where we might score 80 points a game, but like hey, like we're gonna grind teams out defensively. All in all, I think this will be interesting. I 100% believe that like Rubio again should. I think he should wear the most bizarre number possible, and I like hope that this is like one
Like
of
a
those like
Baron Davis 85.
yeah, I think 63 is like I think a guard number is perfect. Like Peter Bukowski put that in my head, and that is now just like I need
Like a
that.
football guard number.
Yeah, I need him to wear like a
Okay.
bizarre. I need him to wear like a bizarre number. Like I need him to wear like
Well,
55, like he's playing center.
no player has ever worn 63 in Cavs history. Alex Kirk wore 53. Baron Davis wore
Has any
85.
has anyone worn 50? Because he could just like take Jeff
Yeah,
Fane's old Browns number and
six
be like, shout out Jeff
six
Fane. Remember
players.
Jeff Fane, first round draft pick Jeff Fane from Notre Dame.
I do. Len Chappelle, Steve Patterson, Bill Robinson, Ben Poquet, Bimbo Coles, and Arins Onaku wore 50.
Just
I'm
wear a
not
weird
I'm
number.
not a Warriors broadcaster, by the way. I'm not trying to like pronounce things or be
Okay.
racist
Yeah,
about
if you know that it means you're online like absolutely too much or we're watching League Pass at a very specific time.
I
But
just saw
look,
the
man.
clip and I was just like,
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Look, this Rondo thing is going to be interesting. I think like it will give us fodder, and I think will be interesting to follow.
Uh-huh.
Evan, I didn't think our last show of 2021 would end with us talking about Rajon Rondo, though. Got to tell you,
No, man, it's really weird stuff.
what a weird week. Just what a weird week.
Cavs have gone winless. COVID sucks. Again, it's very inopportune timing that Ricky Rubio blew out his knee right when the point guard free agency market dried up like it did. I can't read numbers, apparently, despite my degree. It's a humbling year, but thank you for being a part of this with us for real. We're skyrocketing towards 1 million listeners since I joined the show, and that's really weird to think that there's 1 million of you who tune in to listen to us 3 to 5 days a week.
Well, more of that, like 1 million people overall have listened. Multiple people like the count to that total. I think. I don't know if it's like is it whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyway, we're gonna wrap up there. We'll be back after the weekend. We'll talk about. Maybe if there's like a little Rondo update, I'll throw up like a micropod over the weekend and we'll just throw that in your feed so you can kind of have like a little audio update to chew
I'm
on.
available Saturday, not Sunday, but
Well,
because of the game.
as Evan knows, I'm not really doing anything right now. But want to thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day as we end 2021. Our next episode, again, we'll be back after the holiday. Cavs will play twice in between now and then. We'll talk about those games. We'll talk about how guys look when they come back. We'll talk about Rondo as that kind of evolves and things like that. And look, we want to recommend that you make your second listen of the day, Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. That's Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Again, go subscribe to us on YouTube as well. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Go hit subscribe. It's a good New Year's resolution for you. Go do it. Until then, it's been Locked On Cavs, everyone. Be well.